All right, I wanted to make a quick video about the different pitches that I used as a professional pitcher and kind of a little background on how I learned them. So first pitch, four-seam fastball right here. When I learned it as a kid, I gripped it with my whole hand. That's what I recommend until, depending on hand size, anywhere from 10, 11, 12, you're gonna start, going from full hand to two fingers like that. And then I also had a two-seamer, and then I went through periods of throwing more two-seam fastball, more four-seam fastball. Four-seam's gonna have more ride, more lift on the ball. Two-seam, you wanna be able to get that sink. When I was playing, we didn't understand the concept of seam-shifted wake, but I definitely threw some sinkers, that would drop below bat. I didn't know how to replicate it, and we didn't have the technology back then. So those are my fastballs. First curveball I learned when I was 12, right here. Stacked deuce, pretty traditional. Most guys kind of throw it either there or spike it. I had this finger off of it, kind of stacked on that finger like that. And that's to get this finger off of the ball so that you really are only working with two, so you kind of get a really good grip right there and can get that good action. And then change up most of my life through basically, conventional circle change. And that was pretty much it. All the way through, college, I struggled with my change up as I got older. When I was young, it was nasty. That can happen. You can lose a pitch and then you try to find it. I had a 14-year big league veteran that specialized on the change up try to help me with it. And that helped, but his release with it's totally different. He was an incredible pronator. He pronated it big time, and that really didn't work for me that well. So I experimented with different pitches. I threw splitters as a changeup, and that would work well for me sometimes. And then in college, I learned the slider. Basically, what I did is I just went here and then kept this finger on it. So it was like a sharper curve, and then sometimes more of a slider. And then instead of going there, I would just go a little bit here, like half supinated. That would turn it into like a true slider. Also in college, learned a cutter. Threw some knuckleballs in practice right here. Threw this my whole life right there. Learned it as a kid. It was always pretty good. People loved playing catch with me with it. It was just always fun. And always had pretty much the best on my team, but it wasn't really till pro ball that I fully decided to try becoming a knuckleballer. And if I could go back, then I would be, kind of like more Matt Waldron, throw everything, throw my, 90 sinker, throw my slider, curveball, changeup, the splitter, and the knuckleball. And that probably would have been 10 times better for me. But the prevailing thinking at the time was that you're a conventional pitcher or you're a knuckleball pitcher. And that's what we're trying to change, is that you can add the knuckleball to your arsenal, and you see that more and more people are starting to think that way. It's a revolution in the game, but at the time didn't know that. But learned the knuckleball, threw it towards the end of my first year a little bit, really pushed for them to let me throw it in the Cubs organization. Next year they came back and they loved that I got so much better with it and had a lot of success with it. And then it took me up to AA. And even since then, I feel like I've learned so much more to pitch that really you never stop learning. I say on my Instagram, if you master this pitch, you'll play in college. Truth is, if you master it, you'll be a Hall of Famer, because no one, truly masters it. It's always a work in progress, no matter how good you are with it. Really the most amazing, in a lot of ways, magical pitch that can turn, like Tim Wakefield, first baseman, into an all-star pitcher. And those are my pitches. When I threw the knuckleball, some games it was working really well. I'd throw it 70% of the time, 80% of the time, and it was unhittable. Other games I didn't really have it. I felt like I was probably throwing 40%, 50% knuckleballs, and I wasn't throwing it for strikes that well, but it was still effective for getting them off of my fastball. Then I would throw two-seam usually, sliders, and just kind of throw everything in the kitchen sink and do my best. And those, looking back, sometimes those were decent games for me. Sometimes, they weren't the best, but that's what you have to do as a pitcher, realize you just have to survive out there. So you want an array of pitches, not because you necessarily need every single one, but some days one's not going to be working and it might be your best pitch. I've had days, for example, a fingernail would break, or like I would have some issue with my thumb, had that big time, and I had to rely on other stuff. And you see that in the big leagues where guys will have issues with one of their pitches and they have to turn to something else. A knuckleball guy will have to figure out ways to get people out. Maybe their knuckleball's not as effective that day, so they have to kind of mask it, throw it for balls, then blow a fastball by you. There's different ways. But those are my grips, and I've experimented with different stuff, kind of like cutter, slider right here. And now that I'm doing all this stuff on Instagram and social media, I'm throwing all sorts of different pitches in practice and live at bat. So I'm throwing sweeper right here, throwing, you know, slider here or here. I'm throwing, you know, like I said, splitters, you know, getting it more forkball, throwing Vulcan right here, trying different pitches. But when I was pitching pro, it was stuck to just a couple main ones. Hopefully you found this helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.